2 a.m. net will begin in approximately 5 minutes. KC9UDX net control here. This would be the ideal time to welcome any YouTube viewers, but I see nobody's watching and nobody cares if I welcome you when you watch this in the future. Hello, Bratwurst. And hello, other person watching too. The only time I can legally say this, I can't do it when I'm on the air. Good evening, this is Kilo Charlie Niner Uniform Delta X-Ray. My name is Matt, and I welcome you to the 2 a.m. net. The purpose of this net is to promote the use of amplitude modulation and also to establish this part of this band as a place for AM activity in this area. Everyone is invited to listen. Licensed amateurs who can do so legally are encouraged to check in. We listen in the AM mode and transmit in the AM mode. Excuse me. If you cannot transmit in AM, we encourage you to listen in AM and transmit in FM. If you are transmitting in FM, please adjust your transmit frequency a couple kCs above or below from our receive frequency. This facilitates the use of slope detection, that is, demodulating your FM signal with our AM receivers. When checking in, please announce your call standard phonetics. Again, this is KC9UDX. My name is Matt, and I will now begin accepting check-ins. Any stations wishing to check in, please come now.
Kilowatt 9, Foxtrot, India.
Recognizing Jerry, K9FI. Jerry, welcome to the net. Do we have anybody else? Hearing no one yet. Jerry, I wonder if this is the first time you've checked into this net. I don't exactly recall. It's been a couple of years now and my memory is not that good. I'd have to search through the logs, but you will certainly know the answer to that. Well, we have you, Jerry. We have a fellow named Bratwurst who follows along on YouTube. And we have at least one other person watching on YouTube. But hopefully we get some more on-air check-ins here. We should. We usually do. Jerry, I will turn the net to you first. Talk about anything you please. K5 from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt. Good evening to you. Your name here is Jerry. You got that correct. Call it Kilowatt 9, Foxtrot, India. I have not been on this net for a couple of years. I used to come on once in a while when I was using my ICOM 7000, and that worked on AM on 2 meters. And now tonight, I want you to tell me how good or bad my signal is as far as quality goes. I'm using an FT2000, which I just got operating today, and I don't know exactly how good the signal is, so you may tell me how the mic gain sounds and everything else. But I'm out here about 180.
I use a TS2000 also. Carry model number straight. But anyway, I just got everything fired up and almost on time tonight. Nothing special, I guess, going on over here. I still have almost everything put together like it's supposed to be, and I'm among the radios here, which the fact that it's lasted for about 6 weeks now is a big deal, because I haven't decided to tear anything out. I did move the way the microphone was mounted because I needed to get another lamp, another light source in here so I could see what buttons I'm pushing. And of course, at the same time, then the workbench behind me, I had an under-counter fluorescent light on that one, and that bulb burned out. I really didn't want to buy another one. Luckily, I found one which fits lengthwise, but the diameter is larger, so I've got that. So every time I'm ready to work on one thing, something else blows up. Anyway, like I say, nothing special going on. Let's see. Since last month, I did not give the 2-meter contest a try. I guess early in the day there was activity there, but later in the day it was dead. Week before that was CW 160 contest. There were a lot of signals out there, but I didn't really have time to sit down and work on that one. And then, let's see, before that was sweepstakes, which conditions weren't what they have been in the past, but I did work Northwest Territories again. Anytime I'm not close to actually getting all the sections, I work Northwest Territories. The years that I get very close to getting all the sections worked, I can't hear them at all. So I worked them again this year, so that proved I wouldn't have all the sections worked. But I guess that covers my radio activities here and other things. So there's some talking in there to give anybody else out there time to get themselves fired up. So I'll send it back to net control. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I do appreciate you giving me some time here. I was getting the YouTube stream back up, and it seems to be working again. We'll see how long it lasts this time. Unfortunately, I have no way to resume the previous stream, so it's a new stream. That's one thing I wish YouTube would do a little bit better. If you get interrupted, you should be able to continue your existing stream. Now, speaking of YouTube streaming, I did a little bit of playing around with a desktop computer. You're not supposed to be able to live stream from Windows XP. Everybody says you just plain can't do it. Well, I successfully did it. And I learned quite a bit. I learned that YouTube has more settings for desktop users than they do for us mobile users. And the most notable thing is that there are latency settings. Now, I would say that this is actually done on the medium latency setting. There's a high, a low, and a medium. Low would be absolutely useless for this net. Medium is probably workable, and high is almost real time. It's probably better than what we've got going here. But there's not anything I can do about that short of using a desktop computer, and I almost was going to do that this month. The problem being that the Windows XP installation, of course, grew to the point where it didn't work anymore. The computer was not keeping up with the video stream anymore. And that means reinstalling Windows. I guess, Windows, you just have to reinstall it periodically. But I have opted to try NetBSD to see if I can do any video work with that first. I don't expect that I will succeed. I think that the live video tools for Unix or Linux are pretty lacking. But I'll probably play around with that for a week or two, and then end up reinstalling Windows XP, just because that worked. I have no intention whatsoever of buying a newer desktop PC. So I'm kind of limited to a 15-year-old, I guess you call these things Wintel machines. I don't know what the proper way to call them is. Nobody seems to know that. They're technically AT clones, but they're not really AT compatible anymore. They're sort of. Bratwurst, our YouTube regular, is saying that he could tune in to the net here on his 1971 Robin VHF and LHF, VHF and LF radio, and that is certainly true. But the signal we have here from any one of us is probably not going to make it all the way up that far. So you could certainly try it out. You'd need a pretty good antenna, and then I still don't think you'd hear us, but it's, I guess, always worth a try. And we're at the bottom of the list, but before I check for any more check-ins, there's a couple of things I wanted to say here. First of all, I got very lucky with the YouTube stream. My internet connection was barely working about an hour before the net. It had been going on for a couple of hours. I don't know if there were some technical problems at Time Warner Cable, or somebody else on the same network as me here locally, not my LAN, but on the WAN side, was maybe using up a lot of bandwidth. I have no idea, but whatever it was, I was dropping packets left and right. And just in time for the net here, my network improved greatly. It's back to normal. Now the YouTube stream is working again. Hopefully that stays. That's been kind of an issue the past 2 months here, I think, where it just all of a sudden quits. And it did it once tonight, but we will see. The other thing I wanted to bring up is just to make everybody aware of Comet Virtanen. Actually guess I have no idea how to pronounce that properly. To me it looks like Virtanen. I've only read about it. I've never heard anybody talk about it. So we do have a comet that's visible, should be visible. I have not had an opportunity to go out at the right time of night to look for it. I think in about 3 hours it should be clearly visible, but of course if you're around the city lights around here, you probably won't see anything. Now to describe where it should be, I couldn't tell you exactly. I think it's probably a little bit south and about the same I can't think of the word for the amount above the horizon, but it's just roughly south of Orion. I think. I could be totally wrong about that. Anyway, we're at the bottom of the list. Let's see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Hearing none. Well, I hope Frank is okay. He hasn't missed a net in a very long time. So we will go back to the top of the list. Actually, before I do that, Bratwurst says it's not a school night for him, so he can stay up and possibly see the comet. And I have no doubt from his location up north he will be able to see it. Top of the list, we have Jerry, K9FI. It's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt, very interesting, and you guys know a lot more about computers than I do. I'm just an operator and try to do as little to it as I can to get what I want so I don't screw it up. You made comments. You were mentioning my signal could have been my audio could have been louder. Do you think I should turn up the mic gain a step or two? Because you can tell Dave I'm using a Kenwood TS2000 tonight, which is practically the first day I've used it. I was on HF earlier today, talked to a guy out in Montana, and it was working good. And I'm still learning what all these goofy buttons do and everything. But you think I should turn the mic gain up a little bit, Matt? Otherwise, you make comments one way or the other. So back to you, K9F5.
Jerry, I would suggest maybe turn it up a little bit. Certainly be able to tell you if you're distorted at all. Now, that TS2000, I can't recall exactly who it is. Somebody else was using one of those to check into the net here, and it does seem to me that they had to turn the mic gain up higher for AM than they did for HF. So maybe you're having the same situation there. If you'd like to bump it up a notch and try and give me a transmission here, I will let you know. I got to turn down the volume on my 70 centimeter rig here so I can actually hear. There we go. All right, Jerry, go ahead and give it a try if you can.
Okay, Matt, I went from a 20 to a 23 setting, and that's where it's at the moment. If it's too high, I can back it down. But I thought I'm glad that you're letting me do this because this is really helping out. And maybe you think I might have to do a little further. Back to you, K9F5.
It's hard for me to tell from one transmission to the next for sure, but it does seem to me like it's a little bit louder. Maybe bump it up a little bit more and try it again.
Okay, Matt, this is K9FI, and now I'm up I went from a 23 to a 27, and by the way, it was a nice day today, and my wife was home from school, and she was making cookies, and of course I have to sample them, so I was really suffering through the whole deal. Is that enough chatter for you, Matt? K9F5.
Roger, you sound much better now. I would back it down just a hair though. I've got a little bit of buzzing on your audio, and I'm not sure if that's my speaker or if you're distorted a little bit. But just to be safe, I would say probably turn it back down to 25 or so. But otherwise, that was a great improvement.
Okay, now I went down from a 27 to a 26, and I'm. This is really fun. I haven't done this in years, and this is, like I say, it's a real kick, and I'm going to have to do this now more often because the 7000 is in the box, and this is sitting on my shelf. So back to you, Matt, K9F5.
All right, thank you, Jerry. And I would say that's probably just about right. 26. And I guess I'll ask Dave if he can hear you better, but I would say that's pretty good audio right there. And then we'll go next to Dave, WB9BWP. It's your turn again from KC9UDX.
To the southeast of my antenna, which is only about, like I say, it's at 16 feet plus 20 feet. I got a hill to my southeast, so that's going to be in the way, especially on this kind of a frequency. Back to you, Matt, K9FI.
All right, thank you, Jerry. I think I was talking over the top of you there, but I did get the hill to the southeast. I can certainly appreciate that. I have quite a bit of hilly terrain around me, so that's one of the issues I always have with this net is getting my signal out. And of course, I'm always talking about ways I can improve that, and I just never seem to have the time to do anything. But next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP, and Dave, maybe you could comment if you can hear Jerry better. KC9UDX here.
Okay. I was barely hearing him originally, and then I was fiddling with getting YouTube to get back on track and let me hear what was happening. So I missed about half of what he was saying, but right toward the end, suddenly the signal picked up in this direction, and I could hear him. He sounds fine over here. I've got a TS2000 also. I just run the miking. I've got a Heil Goldline microphone. I didn't go up by it. It actually came with the radio. Back when I bought the radio originally, they had a promo. I run the miking at the default setting, which is 50 out of 100. I don't know if that has any bearing other than just numbers, but I do have the processor on. I normally run that on sideband, and I forgot that it's still on, and I'm not sure if it actually does anything on AM or not. I'll have to turn it off then, and you can tell me if you notice any kind of difference on that. But I've been fairly lucky with just letting audio go with the middle of the road settings, which I think might be the default setting. I don't even remember. This is actually the second TS2000 I had. Is the first one, which I bought shortly after they came out. That was taken out by lightning. Lightning that came through the cable system. I don't know if I ever told that story here. It was a kind of a convoluted chain. I had an internal telephone modem board in the PC for controlling the repeater at the time. And what happened was the cable thing out at the street was actually hit, and the connection for this house was like totally blown out of it. There was one spare they had in that junction box, and they were able to connect me back up again. But anyway, it came through. It took out their equipment, their phone modem, and the internet modem. In the course of taking out their phone modem, it took out my analog telephone modem that was in the PC, and the PC was connected to the radio by a serial port. So I took out the modem, then took out the motherboard in the PC, which then went down the serial port and took out most but not all of the radio, but enough so that it actually couldn't do anything useful. Like it would transmit on HF, but it wouldn't receive. It would receive on VHF but not transmit. Things like that. And the insurance company insisted I try to have it repaired, and I kept hoping that they would just tell me that they couldn't fix it. And after a few weeks, they finally threw in the towel. I was back in 2006 and said they couldn't fix it. So at least I got a new radio out of it. So I've been running this one since probably late 2006. It did hit a wire antenna that I had out in the yard. It actually hit the oak tree that was serving as support for the feed point. Blew some bark off the tree, and it vaporized the feed point of the antenna. But that antenna was not connected. When I have them going through switches, it didn't take out the spark gap in the switch. I think it just blew it up before it could go anywhere. So it was the cable system that took out the radio. Over the years, I've had a couple of other incidents where lightning damaged equipment, and it was via the power line. So far, nothing through the antennas, which is good, I guess. The other stuff is a lot harder to find, actually. Anyway, there's a whole bunch more babbling there. So I best send it back to that. This is WB9BWP.
W9TOF.
Hey, there's Gary, W9TOF. Gary, I'll let you in, and then I'll see if you've got anything pertinent, and then I'll go back to commenting on Dave's story here. Gary, go ahead, KC9UDX.
KC9UDX, this is W9TOF. I heard you guys on the AM net on YouTube, and I thought, I better haul out my Kenwood TS700SB. So here I am. Back to you, Matt. Go ahead, W9TOF.
All right, thank you, Gary. It's great to have you here. Your audio, you sound remote. You sound like you're over a telephone line, but that's okay. It's great to have you here anyway. Dave, you did relate that story here once before, but I don't mind hearing it again. It's always good to hear those kind of stories. Unfortunately, at your expense there. I too have had minor lightning damage over the years, but nothing since I've lived at this location that I can recall. 15 years here now, and the only thing I recall is not actual damage from lightning, but a pretty good scare. They say when lightning, the most powerful lightning strikes are building up, you can measure the charge in the air, and I didn't really think too much about that until this happened. And what happened is I had a smoke detector that I took off of the wall and set on my pool table because we were painting the wall or something, and that smoke detector went off. And obviously there was no smoke or fire or anything, and I did a little bit of research, and apparently and it makes sense that's a normal effect from having ionized air is a smoke detector going off, heavily ionized air. So I was probably about to get a very large lightning strike here, and I don't think it ever actually happened, which is good. All right, so we are at the bottom of the list. And Gary, I forgot to write down your signal strength. Dave, you're a solid 5, like pretty much always. Jerry is a 6.2 here. I say 6.2. I guess 6 would be probably close enough, but I estimated another 0.2 there on the meter. Let's see if we have any further check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. All right, hearing none, we'll go back to Jerry, K9FI. Jerry, Dave says he's got his microphone gain on his TS2000 at 50. Now, I'd also noticed that my speaker here buzzes about the same when Dave is talking as when you are, so I'm pretty sure that you don't have any distortion at all on your signal. So you could possibly turn that mic gain up higher, but then again, Dave also says he's running a Heil microphone, which I guess the mic gain settings could be drastically different between your microphone and his. I have no idea. But Jerry, it's your turn again. K9FI from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt. This is K9 FI. I'm still running it at 26. According to the manual, 50 is the default position. So maybe I should go and raise it up to 50 and give it a shot once. And I'm just curious as to where you're located, and so I get an idea what's all going on. And Matt, I talked to Gary, I believe, on the west side net, if I'm not mistaken. Unless I got him confused with somebody else, but I can't hear him at all. And of course, Dave is just about at the noise level. Like I said, I have a hill to the southeast of me, which is adjacent to my yard here, because I'm out on 185th and Blue Mound on Brookville Road, if you're familiar with the area, about a half a mile or quarter mile north of Blue Mound, and that's where I'm at. So other than that, if we go around again, I will raise it up to a 50 just for the fun of it to see what does happen. I got to see if it's, well, I'll do it on the next go around. So this is a good time, and I'm learning about my radio, and I just wish I could hear everybody better. So back to you, Matt, K905.
Excuse me. All right, thank you, Jerry. Yeah, we'll certainly have to listen for that on the next go around here. And unfortunately, that's one of the problems with these 2-meter AM rigs. We don't have a lot of power, and at least I don't have the best antenna situation for this. So it does get difficult hearing everybody at the farther distances. And of course, Gary's got to be the farthest guy from you, Jerry. So that explains why you can't hear him. And I am located, I guess if you know where Waukesha West High School is, I'm a little ways from there. That's probably the best reference for anybody not familiar with the roads out here. And next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP. It's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Okay. Starting here, I turned the processor off. Like I say, I don't remember if it actually does anything on AM or not. So I'll speak a bit here, and then I'll pause, and I'll turn it back on to see if that makes a difference. I know on sideband it does give me a little extra push, also, which sometimes comes in handy in the context. And even on the net, sometimes on the Friday night net, depending on conditions. So, here I've done some talking here, so stand by a moment and let me push the button again. Okay, so there it's on. I probably could have done that without letting go, but you never know what happens with these things. So now the processor's back on, and like I say, I don't know if it actually does do anything on AM. All these years, and I've never read the book. Only when I need to, like how does this work, or the kind of thing where how did this work? I remember I did this once, but now I don't. But unfortunately, that's how all these things are going now. Since I'm trustee of MRAC, back when we started with the fusion stuff, Yesu actually gave us a couple of radios, and I do have one of those radios, and I know just enough to turn it on and program some frequencies, and that's it. And that's one too that I really have to read the book, and especially now that we have the internet connection and the wires stuff running on that. I really do have to read some of that stuff so I know how that stuff happens. Let's see, my oversized fluorescent bulb hasn't melted anything yet, so that's a good sign. Let's see, I'm just looking around the room here to see if there's anything else special that I've done. I did get a new soldering station, like that's a big deal. Only because I got a fairly decent price, plus there's a $20 rebate on it, so that brought it down to like $82. The interesting thing about that is it's got a few more programmable features than the thing I used to have. But everything said that there's also an auto power off. The old station I had an auto off, but it didn't have a setback. This one has a setback where you can set a period of time, and after that time passes, if it hasn't done anything, it'll cut the temperature in half. But everything I read said, well, there's a shut-off too. And, well, that's where I got this thing, and I was using it, and it works really great. It works better than the old one that I had. And the setback works fine, but it wasn't powering off. I even fired it up one day and let it just sit. And it was like 5 hours later, and it didn't turn up. So I started by, let's see, how did it go? I did the live chat from the place that I bought it from. They're a test equipment dealer and tools and stuff. And their excuse was, well, the person that knows about that, really knows about those products, has gone for the day, so maybe you better call us tomorrow. Okay, fine. In the meantime, I sent an email. I found an email address for, this is a iron weller support in Germany. And so I sent an email, and I got back a response that was in kind of twisted English. And he said, oh yeah, it should power off 3 times whatever the setback time is. And that sounded kind of strange. I set the setback at 1 minute, and I'm thinking it's going to turn off in 3 minutes. That sounds weird. It still didn't turn off. So then I called the dealer on the phone instead of their chat, talked to somebody who then said, we really don't provide any support for those products because we don't really know anything about them. And so he gives me a number that's different than a number that I had for weller support. I called the original number that I had to leave a message for a guy that never called me back. So then I finally thought, now this is going on for like a week. I finally thought, well, let's call this other number that the guy gave me. And I called and I talked to somebody who answered the phone right away and did a lot of, yes, sir, how may I help you, sir, and all of that. And I explained it to him, and he, without having to take any time to look something up or anything, said, oh, no, that particular model doesn't have the auto power off. Some customers said they didn't like it. Some customers said they did. But right now, we left it off. Even though we are discussing whether it should be in there or not. And I said, well, maybe you better tell everybody else that it's not there, because I wasn't sure if this was working or not. But you're the first person that actually sounds like you know what you're talking about. And there again is a very long story. But I found it rather interesting that for $100 piece of equipment, like nobody had the right answer except for this one guy that probably has an office in the corner or something that nobody ever really notices. Anyway, that's killing a whole lot of time. So I don't know if you remember when I pushed the button about the processor on and off, and maybe you can comment on that, but I will send it back to Net. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And no problem on the story there with the soldering station. I think that's very interesting. And it's a shame that you have to call Germany for support with Weller stuff. I don't recall what the company is that bought Weller. I always think that's a shame. It was nice when Weller was an American company, but now they're of course owned by a German, larger German company. I don't recall if I have a pretty nice Weller station that I bought probably 5 years ago now, and I don't recall if it does anything of the sort. It might turn off and it might set back. I really don't recall. I don't normally leave it on too long. I'm pretty good about turning it off, I think. At least I think I am. And no, I certainly did not forget about your tryout with the processor there, and I'll tell you why. The difference is dramatic. Don't turn that processor off. And maybe Jerry should be turning this processor on. Your audio is very good with the processor on and kind of quiet with it off. I actually thought you had backed far away from the microphone. It was that different. So I would say leave that processor on. And then next we'll go to Gary, W9TOF. Gary, it's your turn again from KC9UDX.
KC9UDX, W9TOF. Well, thanks for letting me in the net, Matt. I just happened to stumble across the live feed on YouTube. So I rushed back to my shop, and this is the most technical thing, believe you me, that I've done in the last 6 days. I've been kind of really down after a surgery, but anyways, I got my old Kenwood 700 off the shelf that's got dust still. I didn't even dust it. It's still got dust on it. And just thought I'd pop in the net and say howdy. Like I say, I've been kind of down the last few days. I haven't even seen my horse in the last several days. But things are looking up. I got to go see my urologist tomorrow morning. And after that, I think things might be on getting better and better and better. We'll see. I have you, Matt. I have you on my meter. The light's burned out behind my meter. So I have to replace that little light bulb. But I put a flashlight on it. You were almost 30 over 9. I don't know how my signal is by you. W9TOF back to KC9UDX.
All right, thank you, Gary. Well, it's certainly great to have you here, and if you're here every month, that would be even better. But if that's trouble, then obviously I know that you're a very busy person like I am. So if you can't make it every month, that's fine too. But it's always good to hear from you. And you talk about the light bulb burning out. When I got this Gonset Communicator 4 that you can see on the YouTube video, it was in perfect condition when the guy that shipped it to me shipped it, but he shipped it in a bag, and and it's the only thing I've ever gotten from the Postal Service up until the other day. It's the only thing I've ever received via the Postal Service that got damaged in transit, and it got very damaged. The whole front of it was all smashed up, and the meter was destroyed. And you can see the meter that I have installed is not the correct meter for this model. It's actually for a Communicator 3, and it's supposed to be mounted behind the panel through a circular hole, but it doesn't really look out of place, and I could not find the proper replacement, which was a large rectangular clear plastic kind of meter. And your signal is 4 out of 10. I don't have an S meter. I have a 0 to 10, so you're about 40% of whatever they determined a proper signal would be. Now, I'm pretty sure it goes higher than 10. I'd have to look back in my logs here. I try to keep information on everybody's signals. Frank W9JCC has by far the strongest signal. He's very close to me, and he's got a very good antenna. And I'd like to say that his signal goes over 10, but I see on my logs here I have not been writing it down. Oh, there's one. I noted that he's an 11 on that one, so it does go higher than 10. But whatever that 10 means, you are 40% of it, and certainly very copyable. Jerry K9FI cannot hear you, and I didn't ask Dave WB9BWP if he could hear you. I neglected to do that, so we'll have to see on the next go around. When you first key up that radio, there's a buzz noise like the power supply is being very strained when you first key up, but after that it goes away instantly. So it's not really a problem. Just wanted to make you aware of that. Otherwise, glad to hear that you're feeling better and getting better. That's good. And we're at the bottom of the list again. Let's see if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Hearing none, we'll go back to the top. Jerry, K9FI, it's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Okay, Matt, I'm at 50, and I'll do a little chatter so you can tell me if it's good or bad, or if you think I should put it down where it's supposed to be. This is at 50, so how does that sound, Matt?
Excellent. Audio is just excellent, Jerry. I'd leave it right there. I don't think you could improve on that.
Okay, and I'm going to look at the processor and read about it before I do something to it, but I'm glad that you can hear me better. I wish everybody else could, but that's one thing we used to do on 2 meters, is to not use repeaters. We used to have a little get-together at night, and it was with the West Side group when what was the name of that? Anyhow, the Black Diamond Radio Club, we would get together on 146, 147, 740, whatever. Anyhow, we would get out there and we would just see who can all hear who in case if ever there was an emergency and we didn't have repeaters. And I always thought that's a good idea, like what you're doing here, to know that who you can hear if something does happen to the repeater. But anyhow, now that the signal sounds better, maybe those other guys can hear me better. But they're all Gary is down in the weeds and Dave is just above the weeds a little bit, but very hard to hear. So thank you for the help there, Matt, and I'll turn it back to you. K9FI.
All right, thank you, Jerry. And yeah, I don't even know if I would mess with the processor. I really don't think you could improve on that audio, but I suppose it's always worth a try too. The difference, what you just did there, is about the difference what Dave did when he turned the processor on and off. And next we'll go to Dave, WB9BWP. Dave, if you could comment also if you can hear Gary, W9TOF. I don't know if you mentioned that, and I do know I neglected to ask you that before. So, Dave, go ahead from KC9UDX.
Okay. Gary's probably a little like Jerry as far as I can hear him in there. I can, if I train hard enough, I can understand everything. But it's like real borderline. But okay, I can hear him and I can make out. So that's a success. That's what counts. You can get the message through. That's what matters. And the little bit of the story on the Weller stuff. There's a company called Danaher. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I have no idea who they were or are, but a few years ago, they started buying up everybody they could get their hands on, both in tools and test equipment. And in fact, except for Keysight, which was Agilent, which was HP, Danaher owns every test equipment manufacturer that is in the United States. They own Fluke, they own C3, they own Tektronix. They own so many companies that when you go on their website, I haven't looked there for a long time, but instead of listing like these are the companies we own, they just had letters of the alphabet. And it was like, if you want to know what companies we own, just click on a letter and we'll tell you all the companies we own that start with that letter. Anyway, they were collecting all these tool companies, and Cooper was also collecting tool companies. And a few years back, Danaher and Cooper got together and said, hey, we're buying up all these companies. Why don't we create a company, and we'll each own half, and that company will own all the tool companies. So Weller and X-Lite and Crescent and Diamond, and I'm not sure who all belong to something called the Apex Tool Group, which is half owned by Danaher and half owned by Cooper. I guess that's the American way today. I always remember a Mel Brooks movie. I can't remember exactly which one it was. It might have been, what was it? High Anxiety or something. Companies in there called Engulf and Devour. Just always think of that phrase whenever I hear about all the something they're buying up and other things. Yeah, tell Jerry to just push the processor button and see what happens. And my processor's also set at 50, so very fancy analysis there. I said, well, let's push the button and see how it was. It should be with the default setting. Everybody said, yeah, that's okay. So, all right, we're safe. And so it's good to know that it does work on AM also. So, anyway, with that, I will turn it back to next. This is WB9CWB.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I do recall those names, Danaher and Apex. And I still think that's a shame that all these companies, all these once great smaller companies are now owned by these big conglomerates. But some of them seem to be doing an okay job, I guess. You mentioned the Crescent brand, and those tools still seem to be a pretty decent quality, and they are still made here domestically for now at least. I think I recall when I bought my Weller soldering station, I looked at it, it's a WES51. Don't know if that means anything. It's probably a lower end model. I know that when I bought it, they had ones with digital displays. They were touting, and I intentionally bought one with just an analog dial. And it seems to me, I could be wrong about this, it seems to me they had some models at that time that were made in Asia and some that were not, and I bought one that was not. It's made here in the United States somewhere. And if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you could see me holding up an old Weller soldering gun that I have. I was showing that for Bratwurst, who says he has one too. The one I have is probably a little bit older though. It predates zip codes, and I don't remember when that was that zip codes really took over. But that's always a good indication of how old something is. Anyway, Dave says that he can copy you just barely, but he can make out what you're saying. So that's that. And Jerry, Dave says go ahead and try to turn the processor on and see what happens. So we will see. Gary W9TOF, it's your turn again from KC9UDX.
Real good, Pat, or Matt. Yeah, I hear that noise in my radio. Maybe I better check my SWR at this frequency. Maybe the radio is, I don't know if there's a feature that automatically cuts it back or not, but I hear a buzz and then the needle peaks and drops a little bit. And my audio is sounding funny because the original Kenwood mic that came with this TS700 is really not a very good mic. But so far I can copy everyone. I guess there are people who cannot copy me. Back to net control, W9TOF.
All right, thank you, Gary. And just one more time, just excuse me, key that thing up one more time, and I'll watch if my meter does what yours does.
Yeah, it makes a little buzz, and then the needle drops down. It's a very old radio. It's never been serviced. Who knows? You know, it's probably not. I don't have the drive turned all the way up. But I think a better microphone would be one improvement. Go ahead, Matt, W9TOF.
Well, I can certainly relate to that. I had a Kenwood VHF all mode here that I might still have it. I know I was trying to get rid of it. One of these days I have to get rid of it. I don't use it. But it had the same issue, that Kenwood microphone, and I seem to recall someone else telling me that those older all-mode Kenwoods had pretty lousy microphones, or at least not good for AM work. And that was in contrast to a Yaesu, an older Yaesu that I had, an all-mode, which had a very good microphone for AM, but the receive audio was intentionally bad, which made it very undesirable to use. The receive audio on AM was well, it's worse than the way your microphone sounds. So that's all I can say about that. But everybody always gave me good audio reports. I still have that one too, and I'll have to find somebody that wants to buy that too. And my meter does exactly what you're describing. It goes up to 5, and then I hear a little buzz, and it goes down to 4. So maybe that's what it is. It's cutting back the power. That would certainly explain that. And at least it hasn't gone up in smoke yet, and it's working. So I'll see one more last time here if we have any more check-ins for the 2 a.m. net. Come now, please. Hearing none, we'll go to the top of the list. Jerry, K9FI, it's your turn on the 7-3 round. Go ahead and try that processor if you like.
Okay, Matt, this is the processor, and it's set at the default mode, and you might mention to me if it sounds very good or bad or whatever.
I say very good. I wouldn't change it anymore from there. It may be a little improved on what you had before, but in any case, that's about as good as I think you could possibly get.
Okay, well, it's set at 50, which is, I think, the default mode, default level. I'll look it up. But, yeah, I'm going to see about it when I'm operating tomorrow, because it said you should be about 10 dB of compression, but I have to find out where I find it. Oh, okay. You know, actually, on my compression, I don't see anything going on. So maybe it's doing whatever it's doing. You might ask Dave when you talk to him, when he's got his in the processor on, does he see the compression needle bouncing up to 10 dB of compression? So this is a good net, and I'm having a lot of fun. Like I say, someday maybe we'll get to hear everybody make comments if the conditions, if this is not a good night, or if this is just basically how it usually is, Gary. Matt, I should say. I'll get you guys straight eventually. Anyhow, Matt, back to you there, K9FI.
All right, thank you, Jerry. And at least what I can tell you is that your audio sounds like I would expect it to sound when your signal strength is where it is. And I can see the signal meter change with your audio, and that's pretty good. That's like I say, exactly what I would expect to see. And we'll see what Dave says about the 10 decibels of compression. But signal-wise, I would say that this is pretty normal. We have occasionally better conditions and occasionally worse conditions, but this is pretty much what you could expect it to be like most of the time, I would say. And next, Dave, WB9BWP, it's your turn on the 7-3 round. Jerry was curious if when you're using the compressor, if you see up to 10 decibels of compression.
Okay. Let me turn that down. Depends. It depends what I'm saying. And, I know it works differently on each side up here, as far as what the meter shows. So let's see. If I bring myself over here and I look, and yeah, it's probably around there, I think. Goes down to almost nothing, and it can bounce up to that. And yeah, it's set at 50, just like the mic gain. And again, that's for this microphone. I don't believe. Let's see if I can find it here wrong. Oh, hey, I just changed the frequency, so hopefully that. Don't worry about that. Called pushing the wrong button. I can't check if I have any equalization set on the transmitter. I don't believe I do, but that's in the menu, so I can't check that right now. Anyway, Jerry is more copyable over here than he was at the start of the net. So perhaps all the little adjustments there regarding mic gain and processor and stuff gave him a little extra push over in this direction. So with that, I best say 73 because I know you've got time deadlines here. And it's good hearing a couple of people that aren't normally here. Too bad Frank wasn't here. With that, if I don't speak to certainly you, Matt, Gary, I'll probably on Friday. But have a good holiday here. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all that. Because believe it or not, it's only a couple weeks away. Wow. Anyhow, 73 to everybody out there, everybody that can hear, everybody that might be watching along. And so I'll send it back to Matt. This is WB9BWP.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I would say that Jerry's audio improvements make the difference there in the signal. That's one of the many things that we've learned doing this AM net over the years here is that audio is very, very crucial to good signal on AM. And next we have Gary, W9TOF. It's your turn on the 7-3 round.
Well, thanks for letting me get into the net. I didn't think I was going to get the radio dug out of the back room and screwed onto my antenna and plugged in time. Plus the fact that I was anticipating that I might see a little mushroom cloud come out of it. So far it hasn't. I'm sure this radio needs a little tweaking, but it does need a better microphone. I'm not running it at full drive. I could. I should check the SWR on this antenna, which I haven't done. I don't have a UHF, VHF SWR meter. I should get one and analyze this antenna. I really should do that, and maybe that's something I should make a goal for. Thanks for letting me in. 7-3s to everyone. It was a fun time getting in on AM2 meter. I haven't done this in many years. Thanks, Matt. KZ9UDX, this is W9TOF clear. 7-3s, everyone.
All right, thank you, Gary. And I'd say you did a very fine work getting that radio up and running quickly. I know exactly what that's like, and I'm not normally that successful at it, so I think you did a great job there. And of course, it's great having you here, and we'll look forward to having you here in the future. And I do have a very nice UHF and VHF antenna analyzer if you'd like to borrow it. It's a Comet. Well, actually, I have two of them. One of them is permanently mounted in my HF station. It's a Comet CAA 500, Charlie Alpha 500, and I don't recall what the model number in the other one is, but it's a newer one. And any time you'd like to borrow that, you're welcome to it. And I have to run here, so I will say this concludes the 2 a.m. net. Feel free to rag chew on this frequency after my transmission. We will meet again on the 8th of January 2019. Again, this is KC9UDX 7-3, and good night.